Some people are skeptical about the idea that we can know anything about reality. Other people think the sciences show us what is true. Well, Kant showed that we are right in our everyday views about reality, and the sciences are right in what they claim about reality. But the truth of those claims is limited, and limited in a way that we don't typically recognize. The crucial thing is to start by describing the form your experience actually takes. When I look outside right now, I see a man cutting down a tree. I see a house with sunlight on it. I see a car going down the street. That's the form our experience takes. We see real things in the world distributed spatially. You can't make it be the case that you don't see that. So the form our experience takes is that we see things, first of all, as spatial. I see things as outside me. Those things that I encounter outside, I encounter as real, by which I mean I experience them as doing their own thing for their own reasons. It's not a question whether we experience things as spatial or not. It's not a question whether we experience things as real or not. That's the given fact of experience. The question is, how is that possible? Let's think a little bit more about what it is to experience things spatially, right? I see that thing over there and I see something else behind it. And even though I don't see what's behind that thing, like the house is kind of blocking my view, the very way I see the house is as a thing that has that backside, and I see it as something that has something else behind it. Right? The very way I encounter space is as something that just goes on and on infinitely. The question isn't whether I'm right or wrong about that. The question is, what is the form my experience takes? And as Kant says, space is, for me, an infinite given magnitude. Right? The magnitude of space is infinite, and that's just given in experience. It's not a thought I come up with. It's not a thing I can change. That's the form my immediate awareness of things takes. But if I think what can be going on in any actual sensory experiencing, I'm just going to encounter a finite bunch of stuff. I'm going to see these colors, those shapes, and whatever else. Right? So any spaces I actually experience are finite. So it couldn't possibly be the case that from the actual finite evidence of my sensory experiences, I am able to learn or conclude or derive that space is infinite. But nonetheless, I experience it that way. And that means the fact that I experience it that way can't have come from the specific sensory features I encounter. Indeed, the very fact that I encounter those things as spatially finite means I already have to grasp what it is to experience things spatially. So the experience of a spatial world, an experience we all have, isn't something we learn from experience. It's the form our experience always takes. The same is true of real things. I experience those things as things that work for their own reasons, right? I experience a world of nature outside me. And by nature, I mean all that stuff that does its thing, it's happening by itself for its own reasons. Right? It's self-caused. But I can't separate my experience from the experience of nature, and I can't separate my experience of nature from the experience of cause, right? The experience of one thing happening because of another. The idea of a necessary connection between this and that. But just like I can't get the idea of infinity from finite stuff, I can't see a necessary connection. All I can see is this happened and then this happened. I can't learn from the simple fact of their coming together that they had to come together. Yet it's nonetheless the case that I experience the world of nature as that causally independent whole. So once again, the experience of things as causally related can't be something I have learned from experience. On the contrary, it's only because I already operate with that grasp of what it is for things to be causally related that I can see the world outside me in those terms. The fact that I experience a real spatial world of nature outside me isn't in question. That's just what experience is, the encounter with that. But how I'm able to experience that is the question. And the answer can't be that I learned about it from that world of nature. On the contrary, it's only because I'm the kind of being who comes with the question, why? And I'm the kind of being who comes with the question, where? That the world can appear to me in that form. The world does appear to me in that form. And that means the object of my experience demands of me that I grapple with it in terms of its where, its spatiality. And it demands of me that I grapple with it in terms of its causality. And so it's an empirical question that we ask. Where is this thing? And it's an empirical question we ask. Why did this thing happen? It's up to us then, and it's up to the natural scientist to learn what is actually the case about how that real world works. But the fact that it works in those terms isn't something we learn from the world. That's the given form of our experience. What does it mean to say that it's the given form of our experience? Well, think about a different but related phenomenon. A squirrel looks around for a place to nest. It's not that nesting place is the independently given reality of the world. It's that the nest is a kind of reality that is established between squirrel and environment. It's not something that the squirrel just sort of makes up in its imagination. It's a reality. But it's a reality that's only defined in terms of the squirrel's form of life. The squirrel is the kind of being that looks for that thing that it's going to find. And the world is the place that's going to answer to that. But the world didn't come with those terms in advance. And something analogous is true then of the world of nature, that real world that we encounter. Reality is a phenomenon that's not separate from the kind of being that we are. Reality only can appear as real to the kind of thing like us, the kind of being who can ask that question of why and so on. And that idea that the empirically real world, the world that within our experience is reality, that idea that that empirically real world can't be separated from our form of experiencing is what Kant calls transcendental idealism. He says the world is empirically real, but transcendentally ideal. You can see what that notion of transcendental idealism amounts to if you think about another thing. Imagine that you start learning about music. As you learn about music, it starts to be the case that there are things you can hear in songs or in tunes that are performed that you didn't hear before. It's not that they weren't there, but it's that the fact that you weren't yourself really attuned to certain issues means that certain aspects of the music just didn't speak to you. But you can learn how to appreciate it by studying. And then the way the music appears to you is different. So the later way that you hear the music is a phenomenon, again, that exists between you and whatever's going on in the world. Because it can't be separated by the fact that you now bring this kind of educated perspective that's looking for certain things. But notice that what that means is you're actually seeing something real about the world or hearing something real about the music, but it's an aspect of the world that can't be seen or heard except for someone with a certain perspective. Well, similarly, nature, the naturalness of nature is something that can't be seen except for the kind of being who has a certain kind of perspective. Now, one last point about that. Yes, that means you are grasping something real about the nature of reality. Right? That's the form of the world you have to deal with. But what isn't guaranteed is that the world on its own terms should be apprehended in the terms in which you apprehend it. So for example, if you grow up in a racist culture, you're going to see certain people, let's say, as black and certain other people as white, and that's what you're going to see right off the bat when you see them. Those things aren't false, but it's not automatically the case that that is the right way to grasp what's really happening with that person. And so the crucial thing about the truths of the natural sciences that investigate causes, and indeed about all of our claims about the spatial world of reality outside us, is that though those claims are true, it doesn't follow from that fact that that is the correct lens from which to understand the ultimate nature of that thing.